Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the February 20th meeting of the Facilities Committee. I call this meeting to order. I need an approval of the agenda, but we need to make some changes to the agenda. Under open session action, we're going to remove the first and third items, so all that will remain is sole source requests, AX, JASES, and Vanguard controllers. And under open session information, the first thing we'd like to add would be the driver's ed automobile purchase, which you had in your packet. Any other changes? Good.
None. Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, Mr. Burnett, the first thing under open session action, sole source request.
Back in February of 2017, the Board of Education had approved a request. At the time, we standardized on Vanguard controllers, and they work in conjunction with the FX70 JASES. Additionally, we are upgrading our server to the N4 platform, and this will require the purchase of additional JASES. The company out of Charlotte called Control Stop, located in Charlotte, is the authorized building control specialist that serves Union County, North Carolina. And we were able to purchase directly with Control Stop. Control Stop is the only authorized Vanguard distributor that services Union County for Vanguard controllers, and is the supplier for licensing and purchasing of the FX70 JASES. Staff requests the Facilities Committee to recommend to the Board of Education the approval for the next 12 months to continue sole source purchasing and for the licensed FX70 JASES and Vanguard controllers through Control Stop.
And this is with under $100,000, so that's why the amount's not coming through as well.
So it's going to be year purchases that come up.
Any purchases that come up, and
right.
then come
if
back.
we made a greater than $100,000,
you would come back to us. Okay. Any questions, Matt or Christina?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so I need a motion to recommend to the full board the approval for the next 12 months to continue purchasing the licensed FX70 JASES and Vanguard controllers through Control Stop.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So that's the only thing to the full board. Okay, great. Next item is the driver's ed automobile purchase.
And this is for information. No Board of Education approval is required, as this is under the purchasing threshold. The driver's ed wants to purchase 3 2019 Chevrolet Impalas, and they're purchasing those through the North Carolina Sheriff's Association contract. Each car is $21,840 times 3. That's $65,520 plus, I'm sure, taxes, tags, title, and delivery. And this is really just for information purposes.
Great, thank you.
Hey, I got a question. Are we buying this from one vendor?
Yes.
Okay. I saw 2 items in the agenda or the packet. So.
They're always.
I have 2 quick questions about it. Is there not anyone local that can do the driver's ed cars instead of in Winston-Salem?
So it's through the, in this particular case, it's through the North Carolina Sheriff's Association. And that's where, I don't know that we have control, over that. Yeah. And this,
so you get a better price, right?
Right. Yeah, so it's like a cooperative networking purchasing type deal.
Okay. And the other question is, I noticed on, I think it was on one of the POs, it showed that it had like touch screen that you can hook up the your Apple phones, and you could connect to like the Weather Channel and et cetera, et cetera. Is that something that we can eliminate and save some cost, or is that just standard now?
I'm going to have to tell you that we can certainly check in with the driver's ed folks and get their response to that.
I can barely hear you.
So we can check in with the driver's ed folks and get their response to that. It could be that it's standard equipment. I don't know that though.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, moving on. Sun Valley Elementary and Shiloh Elementary Schools.
So this is an exciting item. And we do have two principals with us, Scott Spencer with Shiloh and Susan Rogers with Sun Valley Elementary School. And this proposal, this program proposal that they're going to present is really an exciting item that everybody that I've seen or heard has seen this proposal has been very excited about it. So really we do think it's a win-win situation. And we'll turn it over to them, and we'll also be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. How we would like to start off is to share that both Sun Valley Elementary School and Shiloh Elementary School are schools of choice for next year. And with that, when we began to create our blueprint for school choice model, we realized that Shiloh and Sun Valley had a choice to make. We would either be competing for the same community, the same families to come to either of our schools and pit ourselves against each other, or we could align our strengths and double our community base and work together with our school choice model, our blueprint for school choice. So we are here to share that proposal with you. And we would like to start, of course, now you know the why, and we have provided a vision card for you. So we would like for you to dream with us for a moment and look at our vision for 2025. So Shiloh and Sun Valley students will be future ready by creating and bridging their own leadership legacy, and they will be future ready.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Dr. Rogers said, our dream here is for the two schools to partner together. So our first goal involves creating a partnership between the schools. Picture, if you will, a co-principalship between the two schools. We have, from a facilities standpoint, proposal that Shiloh would become the K2 campus and Sun Valley Elementary School will become a 3-5 campus for students living in those attendance zones.
Wait, say that again? No. Shiloh is...
This was our original proposal, and once we met, we did decide and heard from facilities that Shiloh would indeed be the 3-5 campus.
Okay.
And Sun Valley would indeed be a K2 campus or a pre-K2 campus.
Apologize, that was printed before we had that. It's correct. Okay. Shiloh would be the 3-5, Sun Valley the K2.
Okay.
I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. I was just...
Alignment of being leader in me schools. Both schools would continue their dual language programs, which are now in their 7th year of implementation.
All right, so looking at actions in year 1, we would be embarking on creating an aligned school culture K5 surrounding leadership in the 21st century. So in essence, it would be a K5 campus. Year 2, we would expand leadership within the schools, the K2 school, the 3-5 school, and within the community. And again, we would be doubling our community base. And then year 3, we would be enhancing leadership by replicating success. So we're looking to create a model that is definitely, we would be able to replicate.
So Shiloh would also get Leader in Me, because this is
ma'am.
your first year in Leader in Me?
Yes,
awesome.
ma'am.
Okay,
Correct.
that's great. Okay.
And so certainly in moving forward this, we would have expected outcomes. Both schools would expect to be Leader in Me Lighthouse status schools. We want to expand our dual language program to include authentic service learning opportunities for students. In furthering the alignment between both schools, we propose diversified STEAM labs, which would connect to leadership and community partnerships. We would like to see that both schools become principal and teacher pipeline schools as partnerships through local universities. And we want to also be A+ NC report card status through the UCPS Empower Ed framework.
So finally, when we look at short-term and long-term goals for our outcomes, short-term, we would have to have identity branding. We would have to have a clear transition plan. This would include vertical alignment with instructional and data processes through the K-5 progression. The co-principalship would not operate in silos as both schools currently do operate in silos. Long-term outcomes, we would be model schools for not only Leader in Me and dual language, but also for teaching and learning and going through our Empowered Ed framework. And we would create a principal and a teacher pipeline as a leadership community. And again, we would want to be able to replicate the success of these two campuses acting as one campus in other places throughout the district.
That's awesome. I'm super excited about it. I think it's a really great thing. I'm glad you guys came up with it. I think it'll be a great thing for the entire community, given that the third school in Sun Valley cluster is already a Leader in Me school, Indian Trail. It's going to be great. And hopefully the middle school is going to take off with their Leader in Me program as well. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to be awesome. You guys are all one campus, so it'll be nice that all the kids from that area go to a single school together.
And I think when Mr. Spencer and I began talking about it, it was very clear that we were charged to be innovative and creative with our school choice model. And we know that this would offer a unique choice for parents throughout Union County Public Schools that does not currently exist.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. From a facilities perspective, since we're at a facilities committee meeting, is there anything that needs to be done to help facilitate that? What school year are we talking about this?
Next year.
It's 1920.
Okay.
We're in good shape. We're looking forward to it. Some things that we may consider, we might want to look at relocating some playground equipment, but we do need to check in with the after school and see how that shakes out. And because we do need to make sure we have appropriate playground equipment for after school. So it's something we need to look at, but that's really the big item that we would be considering certainly up front.
And anything else from after school or cafeteria or any?
So no other issues in operations. There may be an opportunity for us to expand some things in the after school program. We've discussed that with the operations staff. If anything that might be a challenge to us is figuring out how we need to massage or change some of the transportation between the two schools.
That's right, you're on different belts.
They are about 45 minutes apart. And so we've met with them and discussed some of that, talked to transportation as well. So we've got our homework to be done on that issue. We've got to look at our available options and figure out what we can do that works for the parents and for the school. But as far as cafeteria or any of that stuff, we'll keep going like we are.
So will this then go to the full board or spit first or what?
I think what we're asking this committee today is to approve this from a facility standpoint to go to the full board with the caveat that we would also next week discuss this with the curriculum committee from a teaching and learning standpoint and programming to make sure that that committee is on board. Okay. That would be our request today to you all.
Okay.
If you're comfortable with that.
So I have a quick question. It's not really facilities related. How does the state funding work?
State funding.
No,
schools versus one school.
There should not be any change with funding because you're based on a per student allotment. The one change that would come up that we would have to talk about is around accountability because there is obviously no EOG for kindergarten, first and second grade. From my understanding, they would be considered a paired campus because the K1 and 2 is feeding into the 3, 4, 5. So the accountability letter grade that the 3rd through 5th grade campus would receive would be the same as the K through 2.
Okay.
But there should not be any change in funding.
Okay.
So you're not proposing making this one elementary school, Sun Valley Elementary, or
No name change.
There's not been discussion of a name change yet.
is that going to be confusing? That this isn't one elementary school, or so the vision right now is to be 2 elementary schools.
Right, so the perspective that we have is it is one campus, and on this campus, we have a K-2 primary school, a 3-5 intermediate building
And
or
maybe-
facility.
But keeping Shiloh's name
Correct.
on the 3 through 5 and Sun Valley's name.
Right, that's what we've been discussing.
I guess from a legal standpoint, how does that work out with the state and everything too, having like one campus or 2 campuses, because like as far as funding goes and everything?
There's no issue.
No issue.
If you have 2 different names, is that an issue?
No, that's not an issue.
Okay, I didn't know if we need to call one elementary school, we call one the Shiloh campus and one Sun Valley campus, or however it would work out.
We can explore that. Michelle's nodding her head, no, there's no issue. I think that if we wanted to do a name change, that would obviously have to go through the local school site-based team and go through that policy. That's something that we can consider if the community feels like we need to, or if it makes the most sense. But we have not discussed that and don't see that as being an implication or an issue in terms of 2 separate names.
Okay.
Which school is still year-round, please?
Shiloh.
And has there been any community feedback, or when can we expect it?
We have met with our site-based teams. Both schools are meeting with our staff today, and we're looking at parent meetings for next week to discuss that. And certainly for my campus, the calendar, that will be a change, a significant change. But as we lay out this vision, it would be that this is all part of a bigger picture here of expanding the campus, as Dr. Rogers said.
And Shiloh is our last traditional school that's on a year-round calendar, right?
Correct.
Because we took the Monroe schools last year to traditional calendars. So the only school that we would have in our system that's still a year-round would be Wolf School, correct?
Correct.
After this change. Okay.
Yes.
Can you report back to us after you meet with staff, and so we can get their feeling for the change?
Maybe they could do it at curriculum, or Dr. Houlihan, you could go through him.
Sure, at that point, we'll have gathered site-based feedback, staff feedback, and parent.
Because that's a week from tomorrow, right, Christina?
Yes.
Curriculum, okay.
Yes.
We're happy to do that. We'll put on the curriculum agenda, and that can be part of the discussion as an update.
That would be great.
So first off, I want to say this is very exciting, and I'm very pleased to see this brought to us today. I'm still hung up on the fact that we'd have 2 elementary schools consolidated into one with 2 different names. So if Sun Valley Elementary School is a K-2, does that mean Sun Valley Elementary School would no longer have a state grading system, and Shiloh would?
From an accountability letter grade,
Mm-hmm.
the letter grade would be assigned to the campus. So both schools would get the same letter grade. That is how the accountability system works. Because there's no EOG on K through 2.
Correct. That's my confusion, and that's so next to Sun Valley Elementary School, it would be blank? Or you're just saying that you would give Sun Valley Elementary Schools
The state would.
the same grade as Shiloh?
Because they
Correct.
consider it a campus.
But we've always considered it two schools, so now we're saying it's only one
But
school.
they were 2 K through 5 schools. And now they're 1 K2 and 1 3 5, so it's called a campus school.
That's what most states do, is they say that because your
That's what I'm hearing.
testing and accountability is in grades 3, 4, and 5, if the students that are now Sun Valley students and Shiloh students combined in one building, if their accountability grade is a letter A, then the Sun Valley campus would also get a letter grade of A because they consider them to be a paired campus.
is it confusing because it's still the name thing?
Does Sun Valley Elementary and Shiloh currently have the same letter grade?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, I think that's where we stress the co-principalship and the vertical alignment is key.
And we currently have a co-principalship in our schools, in one building with one name. So I guess I'm going to have to have time to digest that.
Do you think it would be better if they had one name? Is that because it still seems like two separate schools? Is that?
I think as a community, my hiccup is that Shiloh has always been Shiloh, and Shiloh has always been year round, or that's how the community
Good
perceives.
25 years, correct.
And so if we're doing away with all of that, how do we change the community perception that these are no longer two schools with one?
And I guess that I hear what you're saying. I guess the other thing that plays into it is spirit wear and things like that when you're going K2 to 3-5 and having different things. But that's something is that kind of where you're going to? They're still really
Two different schools.
Right, and that's where we're doing work surrounding a common vision and mission statement. And we've landed right now on we're future ready. And so that's the part that binds both buildings together as one campus.
Maybe that's a discussion that when you meet with staff and stuff that can be had about the name and
parents and see what their feedback is.
And what the feedback is with respect to that.
I've seen examples of schools that have done this. They've kept their same name and it just has elementary. But then I've seen campuses where they say, a Shiloh Intermediate and a Shiloh Primary, or a Sun Valley Intermediate and a Sun Valley Primary.
But Sun Valley Shiloh Elementary.
Yeah, I mean, so
Some
I think that would be a good, good conversation for you all to have, to their point, with your community.
And so again, I absolutely love this idea, but I think from a perception campus concept and the fact that you're saying that you're a combined team now, but you're not. So
they are, but not in name.
Yeah. Which I promise you will confuse the community. So I think this is a great first conversation. I think this is a great first conversation. But I think we do need to maybe chew on that a little bit more and absolutely get the parents and site base and the community involved. Because near my home, we have Porter Ridge Elementary, Porter Ridge Middle, and Porter Ridge High. And I know when we met with Little and Associates during our whole bond project, we were looking at, creating a campus environment in your community. And so I think that's kind of where I need to think on this a little bit more and ask you to get that feedback also from your stakeholders.
Okay. Matt?
I guess my thing would be I'd prefer to call it one campus name. Like you call it either Sun Valley Elementary or Shiloh Elementary, then call the Sun Valley campus of Shiloh Elementary. How it works out.
Okay.
Dr. Houlihan, when does this need to be decided upon? When's the last date that we can put this on?
I think ideally we've got a week and then it will go to curriculum committee and they've got some work to do, obviously, based on this discussion. See what the curriculum committee says. Ideally, we would love for this to go to the March board meeting, fundamentally because both of these schools are currently school choice. And if we were going to make any changes, we need to let parents know now as they're doing kindergarten registration and choosing that as an option of which school to go to, if that makes sense. If we push this back to April to allow more discussion, if the principals or the board feels like we need to do that, then that's when your school choice window would have closed, and then you go through the transfer process. So,
but we're also asking them to go out to parents and to staff. So they're going to go out to parents and staff, and then we're going to say no. Is that what? I don't know how we do that. Once you open this can, it's open.
Yeah, I'm just saying based on what the feedback is.
That wasn't.
Ideally, we'd like to put it on the March board agenda if the board so pleases.
Was this action or informational?
It's under information, but they're asking for action, but the curriculum committee can take the action if they want and send it to the full board. I don't care what committee
So,
sends
do you
it.
want an action to send it to curriculum or an action to send it to the full board?
That's up to you. You all, however you want to do
I
that.
guess the question is, from this committee, are we ready to make a motion to send it to curriculum that we're good with this, or is this something you'd rather not do that today? I don't know what I'm hearing.
I think we could send it to curriculum, but I think there's some questions we still got to answer.
And just so we're clear on the questions that we want answered, it's the name and what else?
And and for everyone
I'll put the
to
feedback.
agree on the programming.
Go ahead. Hold on. Let's let Ms. Merrill go first. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. And I would assume that when this goes to curriculum, that they would have to approve and recommend to the full board the recommendation for Sun Valley to be pre-K through 2 and for Shiloh to be 3 through 5.
And also for Shiloh's calendar to change.
In the calendar.
Do you have anything else before I go to Matt and Christina, did you have anything to add to that you would like to see?
I just wanted the feedback from staff and the community.
Okay.
Because we've got a change of schools for some, and then we'll have a calendar change for some as well. And
I guess
all that I have right now.
as an add-on to that is, when are we going to know the transportation answers?
So Marlon and I have talked about it. There are some shared buses. There's a issue with the start and finish times, being
Right.
45 minutes apart. So I can't give you an answer right now as far as a definitive time. I can tell you that as this moves forward and we get to putting it in motion, we'll have the answers figured out. We just don't know everything right now.
So there's a chance they will still be on 2 different schedules?
Well, they would be on, I believe, they would be on 2 different schedules, but they wouldn't be 45 minutes apart. So one of the conversations we had was if a parent needed to pick up a kid at both schools as a car rider, so we would have to take that into consideration. So there's a lot to look at.
Okay.
So we're relying as well on the transportation specialist that's at that school. He sees
Okay.
the traffic every day.
Okay, so that's maybe some more feedback you can give next week at curriculum. Okay, Mr. Helms, did you have anything that was on this list as well? Matt? Christina, are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay, there's Matt.
I hit the wrong button, sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, I guess a couple of things too. The boundaries, the boundaries, they would, I guess, merge into one district
Yes,
for Shiloh and Sun Valley.
yes.
And then, I guess the other thing I want to say, I think it's a good idea just because of the location of the 2 schools. Whoever built Sun Valley should have really never built it right beside a current elementary school. That has never made sense to me, but.
Okay, so those are the items then that you're looking for curriculum next week. On Thursday at 8:30 a.m., 9 a.m. Christina, do you know? Anyone?
I think it's at 8, is it
8
not?
a.m.?
I believe it is.
8 a.m.?
I'll have to go look at my calendar. I don't have it with me.
What? 9? That's what I thought, 9.
Okay.
Okay, okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Dr. Rogers and Mr. Spencer?
So just to confirm, we're sending this to curriculum
Correct.
to address programming in each building,
The name,
calendar,
the name,
transportation, the bill schedule and boundaries. And
Well, no, there's no boundary issue.
Mr. Helms brought up the question about the boundaries.
I thought we answered it. It's
Okay.
one boundary. Matt, do you want that to go to curriculum, or did you get your answer quick?
No, I'm good with that. As long as I guess we're just going to combine them.
Okay, so the name, the K235 split, the calendar change, the feedback from staff and community, and transportation and bell times. Okay.
Yeah. And I guess for the boundary too, or we're going to call the boundary, if we get back to the name, we're going to call it Shiloh/Sun Valley, or how's that going to work out? But we'll figure that out.
We'll figure that out.
And does curriculum deal with transportation? Like, what exactly are we asking?
I think she's
curriculum
just,
to do?
I think he's just updating.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
I honestly, as Mark said, that the transportation is going to take a little bit more longer than a week. So I can't imagine what, if any new detail we'll have in that time, but the update can be provided.
We'll have some talking points about things that we're looking at and why.
Okay. Okay, so do I have a motion that encompasses that?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you so
coming
much.
today,
Thank you.
and good luck at
Thank
your
you.
meetings. Appreciate it. Okay, and I guess I skipped over some, oh no, we moved it up.
The CIP.
Yeah.
One thing, if I can go back, Ms. Helms had asked about the screen on the driver's ed vehicle. I had a chance to
Okay.
look through.
Can you hear, Mr. Burnett, Christina?
No, not really.
Okay.
Okay, hopefully this is better. I did get a chance to look at the information, and you had asked about an item that's on the entertainment package. That is a standard equipment item. It's on page 5, if I'm looking at the same thing that you're looking at. And the standard equipment items start on page 4. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay. Next is the fiscal year 20 CIP.
Okay, let me go over schedule on this. What we expect the schedule to be is, total schedule is that we presented this draft CIP last month. Since then, we've heard and incorporated comments and suggestions and additions since last month. We plan to propose the CIP next month at the March Facilities Committee meeting, and then hopefully to the April Board of Education meeting. Highlights of this draft plan include we're currently, as shown, we're touching between 37 and 49 schools. The range is due to those projects that were highlighted in red. So if by chance we removed the projects in red, we'd have 37 schools that we touch. Otherwise, right now, we're touching 49. Another highlight is replacing and purchasing 20 maintenance vehicles. As we get later into the agenda and we talk about surplus inventory, I think you'll see we've got about 16 vehicles that are on surplus. So this year's 10 vehicles, again, was very welcome, very needed, but we're now losing ground due to an aging fleet. And a fleet that, again, the cost to repair, which is increasing. Another highlight is that, as shown, this plan right now is $26.3 million with the red highlights, which are items that are for consideration to remove. That would take it down to $16.2 million. As you look through the plan, you'll see some items that really go into the discussion of long-range planning, and it's South Providence and Walter Bickett Education Center. This plan currently shows close to $800,000 for South Providence, and just slightly less than that at $765,000 at Walter Bickett Education Center. But if you had looked into future years at Walter Bickett Education Center, you can see where it's several millions of dollars that would need to be invested to keep that facility up. Again, it's a 1924 facility, if I remember correctly. So again, that needs to be a long-range discussion, long-range planning discussion. Funding, we would hope that would be outside of the CIP. Some of the incorporated suggestions that we heard, that we incorporated was Piedmont High School stadium improvements. We did add that. We did reduce the roofing amount. We did add, this is a new item, we did add the transportation equipment shed.
Can we just go to roofing for a second?
Sure.
We still have the $2 million that we asked for this year in roofing because we didn't have to do any roofing projects this year, right?
We didn't change that.
Okay. Go ahead, sorry.
Sure. Yep. And then the transportation equipment shed is a project that we have added and wanted to highlight that, make sure you were aware of it. That when we bid the project this past fall, that was one of the bid alternates that we did not incorporate into the project. And so that we have a number of $146,000 on that. Another highlight, just to provide some totals of the categories: safety and security, as proposed, at the $16 million level. ADA is $500,000. Safety and security is $1.23 million. Painting is $0. There were 15 projects that were in the red highlight, so those projects are proposed to be deferred. That's $2.6 million worth of painting that's getting kicked down the road. Building systems, $4.7 million. Expansions and renovations, $8.3 million, and furniture and equipment, $1.285 million. And we're happy to answer any questions and hear any input.
Could you please send us the information? Can you please send us the information you just went through, because I couldn't, maybe you're referring to just 2020, and I honestly had trouble following, and by the time you were rattling off numbers, I didn't have time to locate them.
Sure.
Or write it. So could you send that to the full committee, everything you just read and sent down, so that we can have the totals?
He was just talking about 2020.
That was,
yeah, but unfortunately I couldn't.
No, I know, but I'm just answering that question. He was just
I
talking
figured
about
that part out when he said 16 million. So I quickly understood he was talking about 2020, because our handout says 106 million. So
that's for
if
the
you
5
could,
years.
right. So if you could just send us your notes to the full committee, that would be very helpful, because I had trouble flipping through all these pages and figuring out where you were.
And what one thing I did do this morning was I sent the committee the Excel spreadsheets on that.
Right.
And,
so we can play with
you
it.
can play with it.
Pull totals.
And actually do the same totals that I just
But if
did.
you have it,
Sure.
it would be awesome if you could send
I'll
it to
share
us.
it with you. Yep.
So right now we're at 16.2, if you take out the red you said.
Yes.
And last year, our fiscal year 19 CIP budget was 14.8 something.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay, I have a couple. Does anyone want to jump in? But I'll start. One of the things we deferred at CATA was windows and doors. I would like to still consider that. If they haven't been replaced, even when they update, does that mean that they weren't replaced during the update of CATA back in 90, whatever it was? When was it?
We'd have to look to see which sets.
It says interior doors not replaced during renovation projects should be replaced. I guess the other thing is repurposing the current transportation center once the new facility is built. When's our done date or our estimated, because it's been raining like crazy, our estimated done date for the transportation facility?
Yeah, and I'd have to look at the contract, the completion date. We're expecting that
I
it
just
would
need
be,
round.
I would say spring of 2020.
So I definitely think we need to do the study on how we can repurpose and update the existing facility for the things that we wanted to do back 3 years ago when we did the bond. But do you think we need to put the $1 million in there now, or we could do it in next year's, I guess is the question that I have.
Yeah, it's a great question for the committee to
Okay.
ponder.
I'm just throwing that out there. What else did I have? Okay, so we'll be this year redoing Monroe High School's, replacing the turf at their football stadium and redoing the track. Is that it? Or
Correct.
In 1920.
in this next, I'm sorry. Yes, next fiscal year, sorry. Let's see. Monroe Middle School expansion renovations, remove lockers. And I know it's a small number, but we have a lot of schools who would love to remove their lockers. So, I mean, the high schools all would love to get rid of them, to my knowledge. I don't know why we're starting at, but that was just something I picked out, that maybe we don't need that if we have a lot of other needs going on, unless there's something I don't know.
We do often get requests both ways. That is to remove the lockers, and we also get requests to add lockers. And we're trying to make sure that what is the plan going forward. I don't know that we have any resolution on that. But this particular item in your middle school, it was not so much to do with circulation, to increase circulation space, but it was more to open up an area so that they could have some educational programming in a wide part of the hallway.
Okay, so that's something to think about. Once again, we're talking about taking out the 2x2 foot tiles in the middle schools. This has been on there since I joined the board. At some point, I know this isn't you guys, all the stuff we just can down the road, and we're not getting them done, but we have so many other projects that we need done too, but I'm not the biggest fan of that.
So keep in mind on that particular item, it's Parkwood Middle, it's Sun Valley Middle, and Piedmont Middle,
right,
where we have those oddly configured classrooms that we need to do something about. And along with that issue are the mechanical systems in there that we have problems with as well. And we're trying to figure out a way to address all of it in a timely manner. It's just been challenging.
Yeah, certainly, we would love to reconfigure that space, because those spaces at all of those schools, because the schools do not like them. Everything that I hear from the school, the feedback is that they're difficult spaces, and that we believe that we can reconfigure those spaces to be more traditional shaped and configured classrooms. We didn't want to take out the ceiling and then come back a year later.
This is just the corridors, right? This is not.
This is the classrooms. So there's two different programs that we're looking at as far as ceilings at those schools. One is in the dining area, kitchen area, and then the other is these classrooms.
Yeah, but in main building.
Yeah, main building, main hallways.
But it's more than just we always thought it was hallways.
Yeah, because it says here, the copy I got in January, the first time we met, it does say main building,
right,
not classrooms. And the odd configurations you're referring to are not part of the main building.
There should be 3 pods in each of those schools, which should be considered the main building. Let me see if that's correct. Yeah. So the 3 pods.
So when you leave the main building to go out to the pods.
No. Those would be additions. Those would be separate buildings. So the main.
We're talking about where the cafeteria and the oldest part of the buildings.
Yeah, right.
I thought the pods were the oddly shaped classrooms separate from the main building.
They're within the main building.
They're the ones that look like, what's the game you play?
Tetris.
The little things that have the pieces of the pie you used to play. Thank you. Trivial Pursuit. They look like Trivial Pursuit.
Okay. The pods at Piedmont Middle and I thought we've always called them pods because they're very oddly shaped diagonal or triangular classrooms. I have to leave the main building to go to those.
So you can leave to access the classrooms. Some of those classrooms you access from the outside. And that's another issue. But some of those classrooms you do access from the outside, but it is part of the main building. You just don't have access through the main building to them.
At Sun Valley, they're in the main building, but you have
Piedmont, they're not.
But you have to go outside to get to some of the classrooms because they're only accessible from the
courtyards.
Right.
Right.
But a lot of them are also so like 4 of them are accessible on one side from the outside and the other 4 are accessible from the interior corridor.
It's all under the same roof.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's an odd configuration.
What we meant by that, what rigid. Sorry, what we meant by that, and it's probably just a difference of terminology. We meant the main building, meaning the original building, the 75 version of the building. So those pods, pie-shaped rooms, are part of the main / original building, not all the additions, because they all have the 2x4 lay and tile and those same type of fixtures in it. So we can change that if you like to original building.
I agree with Mrs. Hightail. We're 2 or 3 years into moving this fire-rated product off of our CIP. And that, I agree, that was one of my concerns after our January meeting. I wanted to discuss painting, potentially having a 3-year plan, and the 2x2 ceiling grids to start getting that taken care of. Now, if you're saying that we can postpone that fire-rated product another year, then I will accept your professional opinion, but it was one of my concerns moving it off yet another year.
Do you think, to piggyback on that question, do you think there's a chance that it's going to be in the next year or the next year that we're going to do something about it? Or are we moving this 5 years out? Or I know you probably don't know an answer.
Well, certainly it's all funding driven, and how much funding we can
But
receive.
again, this is a
and then
5-year
priorities.
plan. So if we're not going to do it in 2020, where in the 5-year plan is, and maybe that's another discussion. But it does concern me that we keep moving it out.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
the only other comment I had about paint was if we wanted to consider doing a 3-year plan and begin in 2020 with doing the 05 and 06 schools. Just something for consideration for the committee and for staff to look into was one of my recommendations. And just create a 3-year paint plan. But let's begin with the schools that have not been painted since 2005.
So in 2005, there's 4 schools, and in 2006, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 schools.
I think I had it added up somewhere from our January meeting.
2005 is 960. 2006 is 130, 130, 130, 130. So,
Yeah, I think, yeah, exactly.
so 520, if I know how to do math.
For 06.
06.
So maybe we start with the 05. I don't know. I just want to throw out
I would like to
The
at least start
idea-
with 1, yeah.
the idea of let's come up with a 3-year plan or a 4-year plan or a 5-year plan, but let's get started.
We
And-
have pushed to, yeah, go ahead,
I
sorry.
was just going to ask, so when you say a 3-year plan, is that to do the 05 year that needs to be painted?
Over 3 years, no.
Okay.
Begin in 2020 with the schools. They're listed as 2005, which are I have CATA, Porter Ridge Middle, Porter Ridge High, and Weddington Middle School. But we could move Porter Ridge Middle, depending on the bond work or whatever else. We could potentially, I made a note here to move Porter Ridge Middle down to the 06 paint group. So maybe in the first year, my thoughts were to consider doing CATA, Porter Ridge High, and Weddington Middle from the 05 group.
So adding that to those three schools back to the 2020
right.
CIP.
That's just one idea I had.
Okay.
Weddington Middle and CATA.
I got a question too. How many painters do we have on staff?
We have 6. Or when we're fully staffed, we have 6.
Do we use staff to do this, or do we sub this out?
This will be
I'm
subcontracted
assuming
out.
this is contracting it out.
Yeah.
How many do we actually have on staff
It's 6.
as far as painters go?
6.
Okay. That's not enough to knock it out at one time then.
No, they certainly are busy really chasing down many different issues, painting related, but they're always trying to spruce up the front entrances and things like that.
Okay.
And I guess the one thing too I wanted to bring up was auditorium renovations for elementary schools. Not all of our elementary schools have auditoriums. And I think we have to think a little bit more about what we're doing with the renovations, because it costs a lot of money to renovate auditoriums, but are they being used a lot? Do we have a conversation with the principals at the school about how much their auditoriums are used? Are they used outside by the community? Are they used for things? I would just like to kind of understand.
You make a great point. So whatever we do should be program driven.
Right.
What is the school using it for? If the spaces are underutilized and not used much by the community, that's a factor we ought to consider in terms of moving
So
forward.
when you do that, you do consider all that before you put it on here. Okay, great. And that Monroe Middle, the rated walls, that's part of last year's thing that we discussed. Okay.
I want to ask a quick question, Dave. So the Monroe Middle coming up in 1920, will that get us in good stead with where we need to be with all of those additions and renovations? And will we have to go back? Are we going to have another effort next year to fix or change some things at Monroe Middle?
You talking code related? Yes.
So we'll see it again next year.
No, this should get us where we need to be. That's our expectation.
Yeah, just to remind everybody, there were some issues last year when we were renovating the classrooms that have to be fixed this year. So that's what it's talking about. Okay, that's all I have.
That's all I have.
Christina, Matt, anything more?
No, I'm good, thanks.
So we're going to continue to look at this, shoot any changes by email to Dave and Mark, and the rest of us on the committee will just keep everybody informed. And then next month, we have to get together and make a recommendation to the finance committee to add it to the budget, wherever we end up. Thank you very much, you guys, for putting that together. Okay, construction update. It's raining again.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Let's start with the bond projects. 507 projects are in the construction phase. 2 are considered substantially complete. Transportation Center, this contract has been awarded. State reviews have completed. We do expect that we'll be having our final required permits by the beginning of the month, and that the contractor is planning to begin grading efforts at the beginning of the month. And I think we're good right now. Actually, they could start if they were mobilized. We've got the permits that we need for grading. But again, the weather certainly would not make that possible. We know high school additions, renovations. I do have some pictures there. The classroom addition is masonry has topped out. Steel structure, bar joists are in place. The decking is being installed. The contract right now is tracking towards a late July, early August completion, barring any kind of changes. And again, weather, for the most part, though, the weather is not going to affect this site as much as it's going to affect the Sun Valley site, the transportation site, where those are still very much a lot of earth moving activities. This contract is approximately 62% complete, and Sun Valley High School additions, renovations, again, weather is killing this project. Installation of storm drains are underway through much of the site. We are, one of the milestones that we need to do is to relocate a public sanitary sewer line that goes across the site. And again, that's very weather dependent. We have encountered unsuitable soils on this project in the main building pad area. We did anticipate some of that then to help save money. We're looking at an on-site spoils area, which we will identify with the contractors. We are looking at the building pad for the most part. We believe is close to being where it needs to be. At this point, when I write this, is a little bit dated now. But those unsuitable soils that I mentioned, the current cost estimates, are going to be significant. We do believe that they will be within contract allowances. Moving on to Porter Ridge High School and Porter Ridge Middle School. The high school, which is the scope there, was basically building a connecting corridor from the two-story building through to the main entrance, the back of the main entrance, and the dining area. And the contractor showing that he's going to be able to complete that, substantially complete at the end of the month. Again, we will see. We'll say he's close on that. As far as the middle school, the auxiliary gym floor slab's been poured. Masonry is underway there and at the classroom areas. Of course, the wet weather certainly has been affecting that project too. That's 17% paid out. We have no change orders on that project to date, but we are working on. There was one change order, and I'll get to it when we get to that part of the agenda. Got some pictures, and then Western Union. This contract is approximately 95% paid out. We had one lingering item on that, and that was the louvers at the mechanical. We'll call it the mechanical garden. Give it a nice name. And what we understand is that the louvers have been received and that the contractor is in a position to be able to install that system. And that we expect to happen hopefully within the next 2 weeks. Again, we'll see how the weather affects that. And then as far as Piedmont High School, that contract is almost 95% paid out. Capital projects for fiscal year 18-19 CIP, 40 projects, or about 50%, are either complete or in the construction phase. The tennis court additions, renovations, that's going out to bid, and we should be in the bid phase now. So hopefully at the March facilities committee meeting, hopefully we have some bids that we can recommend. And those tennis court additions, replacement projects include CATA, Forest Hills, Parkwood High School, Piedmont High School, Porter Ridge High School. And that spanned 2 CIP budgets. Forest Hills High School and Prospect Sewer System replacements. It's in final design, and we expect that to be out to bid in March. The Indian Trail HVAC, that's an ongoing project. We are just get to that's a $1.74 million contract. We paid $400,000, which is about 23% of that value. Marshville Elementary School window panel replacements. That bid award occurred in February. We're expecting that work will occur over the summer. It does need to work in tandem with an abatement effort. And Benton Heights Elementary School, just kind of following up on that one. It's 99% paid out, and the sum total of change orders on that was a deduct of $63,826, but that was mostly reflected due to getting that project into so that we could award it. And that's what I had prepared.
Great. Any questions on any of that? Okay, change order update. That's just for information, right?
Yes, so we, Western Union, as far as the levers and actually adding a gate there, and this is a little bit of pass information, but $0 change order, but the item was a $4,979 draw from the allowance. Porter Ridge Middle School, High School, that's the one I mentioned. So we do have a change order that's pending. It's 36-day time extension. And Monroe High School bond and CIP. That's a $21,000 change order. It's for a variety of items. It's to install additional handrails at the annex, BMP fencing, auditorium lighting revisions, replace an existing door and replace an existing door frame.
Okay, thank you. Surplus inventory that you sent, everybody has a copy of it.
Yeah, and really the thing I wanted to highlight on this is that there are a lot of vehicles on this. The common theme is old vehicles in the neighborhood of 20 years old, plus or minus, mostly greater than 200,000 miles. And a lot of it is just the cost of repair is high. There was one item in there, it was number 7085, if I remember correctly, and make sure, 7085 that said condition unknown. Actually, that was a mistake on our part. It's supposed to be in there. It had a blown engine and bad transmission. So the condition is known. It's a blown engine and bad transmission.
Thank you. Building permit history is just for our FYI. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for open session?
I don't.
Okay, then I need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-131 for the consideration of bids and to consult with our attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A3. I need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Come to weekend on Friday.
Okay.
No, I'm not coming.
Going what?
Speed.